Hi, welcome back to Zoomers the podcast. I'm Isla.
And I'm Eliana, and today we're going to be discussing lack of media coverage and imbalance in international affairs. So before we start, we're going to just talk about the future of this podcast. Right now we're in quarantine, as everyone knows, so it's going to be hard to do the podcasts, honestly, because both of us thrive off of face-to-face interaction, and it's easier to read body language and pick up on cues, all that kind of stuff. So we might have to hold off on searching more interesting topics and the ones that are more interactive with other people until the quarantine lifts. So yeah, be patient with us, and we're trying to be as creative as we can while stuck in our houses. So yeah. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about severe imbalance in media coverage. Some quick facts before we start. The most deadly events that happened in the last 30 years have happened in Africa. The African World War happened in the last 30 years in the 1990s. And honestly, I didn't even know before researching this podcast episode. So yeah, over 50 million people died, and most of the world didn't even know.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that's crazy how and I think it really has to do with media and also sometimes education in school, where I think there's kind of a bias and there's just so much that's covered up when it's not related to big headline countries like the United States, China, North and South Korea, all those countries.
Like the big powerhouses, I took world history this year, and I was kind of I didn't really notice until the end of this year because I didn't know what we're going to be learning, but we kind of just covered a lot of events that happened in Europe and North America, and even the parts that we talked about with both world wars, we kind of focused on one side and one side only. We didn't talk about a lot of of the more nitty-gritty aspects of the wars, especially when it's in context with American cruelty. And I found out about that through other sources, not school. So it's really not our fault, that we don't know so much about it.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, at least, I feel like in high school, my history lessons have kind of been without a bias, because I definitely know freshman year when we were doing world history, our teacher, one of his main points of the entire class was that sources cannot be reliable, and you have to see who wrote it and what perspective they were going to have at the time, because when there used to be a lot more racism in the world, if there was because we were learning kind of about the whole slave trade, a paper written by a white man who was a slave dealer, he's going to be oh yeah, they have great conditions, they lived great, but then an actual article by a slave who had to live through all that, it's just so different, because they're going to try and create different perspectives. Yeah. And so I think it really just matters about looking at the source. And I don't know, I can't really remember too much about our history in middle school to remember if it was too not, but I think my dad, since he's from the UK, he draws a lot of attention to some things that happened between the United States and the UK, and he's yeah, that's not actually what happened. And then he has this whole different perspective, not that different, but he's kind of actually, this is what I learned. And I'm kind of, oh, that's kind of interesting. And I can see if that's true, why the United States would have hid that, because it makes our country, I guess, look weaker. But yeah.
Yeah, it's all about perspective, really. I know my family is really involved with activism about war cruelty in concerning Japan and Korea, and I know for a fact that the Japanese don't teach about that kind of stuff in their schools, just to kind of shield their kids from it or something, keep up their national pride. And that happens in every country, I'm pretty sure. I don't think there's any country that teaches what their country did that was cruel or uncalled for. So it's and the same thing is happening in the media. Yeah, it's the exact same thing, the exact same pattern.
Yeah, it's kind of a problem, and I really wish that everyone just put more of the facts out and would be more open because it's been, like, so problematic in, like, past times for so many reasons and different events, just having not that, like, access of correct information, like, I feel like it's kind of in, like in violation of, like, kind of, like, freedom of speech slash, like, freedom of press,
Yeah,
because I
for
feel
sure.
like we should be given the facts and knowing because, like, I don't know, I'm not a history person, but from what everyone, like, tells me, like, one of the main reasons why we need to be learning history in school and stuff is to learn from, like, past mistakes, but I'm like, if you don't give us accurate information and you're not presenting the whole facts, then how can we learn from those past mistakes, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I think American education has like a lot to do with it. Like there's a stat that like 11% of American youth like can't spot the US on a map. And so if that's like that, then like what percentage is going to be able to find like other foreign countries on a map? So yeah, like a lot of countries might seem like far off to us to for us to like even care about what's happening in those countries. So I think that's like this like the media is catering to that kind of and only talking about the big like powerhouses like Russia, China, America, like those things because they're the only things that we know and therefore care about.
Yeah, for sure, and I feel like I've always had kind of a bias in that way because I feel like smaller countries like, I'm not as attracted to their headlines and stuff
Right.
because, "Oh, that doesn't really, like, pertain to me," or whatever, but
Uh-huh.
I've, like, realized that recently, and I'm really trying not to, like, fall, like, to that, so
Uh-huh.
I don't know if this really helps, but I've been trying to read more German news outlets because they tend to not, like, exaggerate things and make, like, the art because, like, I feel like some, like, newspapers in America, at least, that I've read, they, like, try and just exaggerate it to make it more entertaining for the reader.
Sure. Yeah.
But, like, in Germany, or because, like, I have a lot of German friends, and this is what they've said, and this is what
Mhm.
I've observed, like, it's just, like, a lot more straightforward, their outlets and sources, so I'm trying to read more of what they put out there so I can get more straightforward facts, and also if I see, like, countries that I'm, like, I don't really know about, I'm trying not to be like, "Oh, I wanna, like, go actually read it now to figure out what's
Yeah.
happening in the world," and not just, like, the big countries and yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like the whole problem with American media and journalism is like that whole like censorship kind of idea and like mentality. Like people don't want to talk about things that make them uncomfortable or are kind of like going against like national ideals. And like this has been going on since like the beginning of our nation pretty much, you know?
Yeah.
The like the Spanish flu is pretty relevant to now because like we're going through the same kind of pandemic kind of thing. But the main difference is back then American newspapers covered it up like a lot.
Yeah, and it wasn't just America too, it was, like, other countries,
Right.
like France and Germany, and, like, a lot of the countries that were participating in World War One because, like, they just if they, like, put out accurate numbers, then they would, like, look weaker to the other countries, and so that's why, like, Spain was the only one who had accurate numbers because they were, like, a neutral country, so they could afford to
Um,
put out numbers and not look weak, and
right.
so that's why I got, like, the whole name, the Spanish flu, because they seem to have been the only ones who have been hit hard by it, but in fact, like, in reality, it was all the countries, and I think it's just kind of ridiculous because there was nothing in really the American news, like when all like the soldiers were returning to like from war to like create like that like positive propaganda to like support their country and be like, yay, go America.
Uh-huh.
Like when they return, like especially to like Philadelphia, there was so many deaths when they came and through in that parade because they brought the disease with them and killed so many people. And like there was so many deaths that could have been prevented back then if like the US had only been like, guys, this is going on. This is deadly. Like,
Mhm.
obviously, they didn't have as much as like the precautions that we know now to take today, like even just washing your hands, like they didn't know that back then.
Right.
But I still feel like things could have been done, because I was reading an article about it, and it was saying that like people were like going outdoors for fresh air all the time because they like thought like with because they did. I feel like some people kind of saw that there was something happening, but like a lot of them were kind of like, we don't really know and it doesn't seem too bad, so we'll just continue to keep socializing and everything. And so I just think that it's just not a good thing to like take information away from your people, because
Yeah,
you
it's really,
really can't
yeah,
just
because, oh, sorry, because people like people are a reflection of like what their leadership like tells them. Like there's like Donald Trump said like a while back, like maybe like less than a month ago, that like the American people don't want to be like put in houses and have to stay there. Like it's not part of our, like it's not part of us like as Americans. And like that mentality is so what is it, like damaging right now, because I don't know, like what you were saying earlier with like history being like lessons for us to follow or not follow. Like this is like a lesson that's definitely not learned, because of the whole Spanish flu, like Americans were covering it up. And even though right now it's a little less extreme than that, like it's still like the whole mentality is like it's not that serious right now, and then it's being contained and stuff. So like that's why I think we see a lot of people not paying attention to the quarantine laws. And yeah, like it's really a reflection of what the media is telling us, you know?
yeah. And I think like also some of the media sources are really like overhyping it in some ways. And
Sure.
I feel like because of that, and also we've just been in quarantine for such a long time here, or at least like I've never been in my house for this many hours,
Yeah.
I would say. And like I feel like you can really see that it's kind of like, I mean obviously it's affecting everyone, but I feel like staying inside your house is really affecting everyone, because now when I've been like going out and driving, because like I usually drive to the grocery store to get like my hours up or whatever. I mean, I have it now, but like sometimes I'll still go and drive my parents and stuff.
Uh-huh.
But there are just so many more people out in the last few weeks than there were like a month ago. Like people are getting sick of like the media just talking about it. They're sick of it. I feel like a lot of people I've talked to are like, I don't really care at this point anymore.
Mhm.
Like that's all that's going on, and nobody wants to live their life that way. And I feel like they're kind of willing to go out and take that risk
Yeah.
because they're so done with it. And that's another thing that's really frustrating me, because I feel like people are only taking physical health into account right now, and they're kind of not considering mental health, because they're both equally important. Like if you could be physically healthy, but if you have bad mental health, you cannot thrive on that. And like
Yeah,
obviously like I don't know, I just feel like more can be done right now to like ensure having good mental health,
for
because like
sure.
I feel like
Yeah.
nobody's really paying attention to that and drawing attention. Yeah.
Yeah, especially since like it was such an abrupt change. I know like for the first like week or two, I was just kind of like stunned into kind of like silence. I didn't really talk that much, which is kind of a change because I talk a lot normally. And then yeah, so I think yeah, like physical health and mental health are exactly like equal in importance. So yeah, and then back to like the Spanish flu thing, like Americans were, yeah, I guess more concerned with like the mental aspect of it, not health, but like keeping American morale up, especially right after the war. People had lost family members, and it was like not a great time. Even though America wasn't suffering too much after the war, like they had won after all. But yeah, so there was not like outright censorship, but it was more like the government discouraging like media outlets from saying anything negative about the Spanish flu because they didn't want Americans to freak out over it, you know?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I feel like we've always just been more focused on what's best for our country in some ways,
Sure.
because like right now with the whole like in China, like all the concentration camps that are happening there, like
Mhm.
that's obviously something that's not okay at all.
Right.
And like I feel like the USA isn't drawing like that much attention to it. Obviously, there have been some articles, but like it's not like the government can have complete control over like everything that's published, but there's definitely not been that much attention on it at all,
Uh-huh.
which is very intentional in my opinion. And like cuz like the thing is like if the US in my opinion, they definitely should get involved because that's not okay, but they won't because it'll be so bad for them if they do on like our whole economy. And I feel like there's always been this focus in like America to do what's best for the economy because that will be best for us as a society. But like I really think all the countries need to work together and like it's not just your country for itself. And like I feel like that mindset is just not very great to have, which is what kind of leads to all these wars because like countries are like selfish and they want like the resources and land for themselves. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, obviously, some countries, there's such an imbalance in the world. Like, some countries have more wealth, some countries have more resources,
Mhm.
some countries have much less, and all that stuff. But, like, I feel like we're at this point where you have some set amount of resources in your country, and if it just isn't really like great for you, I feel like kind of other countries can like work together and help to build everyone up, and we don't have to always be like tearing each other down because like I don't know, just that negativity is not that great. And so like I feel like more attention should be drawn to these issues like the concentration camps because they're still such a real issue today. Like it's the only and there was other concentration camps that happened too. And like while obviously like the Nazis and stuff and all those concentration camps, while those are like equally horrible, I feel like the other concentration camps, because they're like, for example, in our world history class, we started learning about all the concentration camps that were in Africa. And before that year, I had never heard of them. And I did not know that was a thing at all in the slightest. But there's been like a lot of concentration, and it's just this part of history I feel like that keeps repeating. And I feel like countries aren't taking action against it. And it's like a current thing that's happening right now. And I feel like there should be something that's being done about it.
Right.
And countries should like do something.
Yeah, I think it's a lot to do with like what you said, like some countries are more powerful than others. In China, especially like in this case, China being like an economic powerhouse kind of, like no one wants to like stand up to that. Like it's just kind of
Yeah.
like especially like people were kind of expecting like once like the news got out that like Muslim majority or like countries that have a large Muslim population would do something about it, and like that includes America because like we're supposedly like the I don't know the land of the people, like the land of freedom, where like everyone's like allowed to do whatever they want. So and that like includes religion. So people like expected us to do something about it, along with other like Islamic majority countries, but like no one did anything about it. So like if we or like the countries that like relate to like the Muslims in concentration camps don't do anything about it, like who else is, you know? Because like no one else has that responsibility. So I think it's just to do with like China's power internationally, and
Yeah.
yeah, because like, no one wants to do anything about that, you know?
Yeah, and then there's the whole thing right now with like the sea territories and stuff. Like I don't know that much about it, but there's that whole conflict and everything that's going on. And so like I don't know, I feel like everybody's kind of just trying to stay out of China's way right now.
Yeah,
And I feel like that's not necessarily what's the best for the world.
right.
'Cause that just great.
That's a big thing. Like it's like ongoing tension. Um,
Yeah.
People are just like scared to speak up about it. But one thing I have seen is like on social media and stuff, a lot of people are talking about like issues like these that don't get a lot of coverage by the media. Like I've learned a lot from like people's posting, because like they're like they don't hold anything back. Like they're just saying like exactly what the truth is, even like if it's brutal or you know like even like with like the recent like lynching pretty much of like the whole thing, um where well like two guys like killed a black man who was jogging in a neighborhood, and I can't recall the name right now, which god, but like people were talking about it and like that video was posted everywhere. I didn't actually watch it because like I was scared like it'd be too graphic, but yeah, so like that's like an example of something being extremely like visual and like very strong, and people aren't afraid to post that kind of thing. So I think
Yeah.
like people, like the action is being taken not because like the government saw that, but because like we saw that and like we're stronger
Yeah.
now, you know? So I think the upcoming generation, us, we're obviously a lot more outspoken and like not afraid to show like what we think, especially like on social media. Like, have you seen like a different what is it, like posts about the kind of thing?
Yeah, no, I have. I saw a lot about that, and I think just a lot of topics in general
Uh,
that don't get a lot of coverage. If like one person posts it on social media and it's a pretty horrible thing, like I feel like it picks up traction a lot of times
yeah.
fast. Like I don't know, I was thinking about kind of the like Australia fires and stuff because I remember like a long time ago when that was. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, but like when it started happening, I saw one thing once on someone's story, and then that was just kind of one thing, and then like a few weeks later more and more people were putting it on, and then there was all these like big like Instagram like handles that have like a ton of followers that were like putting up what was happening in Australia, and then there was like a lot of like GoFundMe's and stuff that started going up. But I feel like if it, I don't know, I feel like, yeah, but I don't really know because I feel like for other generations, like some things have been able to like also pick up traction pretty fast. But
Mhm.
I don't really know though, because the thing is I feel like other generations use things like Facebook and stuff, and since I'm not really on there, I don't know like how vocal they are. But like I would definitely say our generation is definitely really vocal about like solving or like at least not like at least getting like the information out there to other people and that awareness happen.
Yeah, for sure. Like, especially since our generation is really into like cancel culture and like tea channels and like scandals, like we want the truth, even if it's like brutal. Like we want to hear it, and and we like won't stop at anything to like get it. You know, like a lot of my friends like in this generation have like intense stalking skills, and like they can find out anything about anyone, and it's kind of scary. So yeah, like I'm not afraid or I'm not worried about the future of our generation in terms of like media coverage because I know that we're gonna get
Yeah.
the facts. And like especially since we're very diverse now, like even within like America, like I'm not too worried about like coverage in even smaller countries. But like at the same time, like there are a lot of us who like haven't gotten the best like balance in education, like myself included. Like I don't think I have like the most well-rounded education that I could have, you know? And like
Yeah.
it's true of everybody. Like um I don't know, like I feel like a very select few of us have like a non-bias. Like everyone non-biased education because everyone's gonna have a bias and every school is gonna have like a little bias. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think there just needs to be a lot less bias, especially in education, because that's just where like everyone learns everything. And
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know, when we learn a lot of stuff at school, I feel like people just kind of accept at its face value what we're learning, and they're just kind of accepting those as facts. And I feel like sometimes you kind of have to be more like, is this true? I mean, for things that happen like over like hundreds of years ago, like I mean it's not like you can easily like fact check that because it's like you have like different textbooks you could read and stuff,
Uh,
but like besides that it's not like there's articles. But I feel like for more modern things, like it's just really helpful to check the facts and make sure. That's why I use like snopes.com for all those things, like when like the what are the like the killer hornets or whatever, like I saw something on that, and then I was like, "What is this, like an actual thing?"
yeah,
Because like some talking about how they like kill you in like their suit, like it was just like a really dramatic article, and I
right.
was like, "This does not sound right," but I want to know if this is actually like a thing. So then I went on Snopes, and they were like, "Yeah, they're here, but that's not really like what's happening with them.
Right.
Like they're not like gonna murder you. Like they're just killing bees, which is still not good
Yeah.
because like." Okay, I also feel like this doesn't give that much attention, but I feel like isn't like the bees population like kind of declining? Like isn't there
Yeah,
this
for sure. Like
about that?
a lot of people are not a lot of people, very few people are worried about this and like it's not a good thing. I know because um like my friend like was in like a Save the Bees campaign and she was really vocal about it because I don't know, she just liked that. So yeah, so she like brought it to me, and like that's how I heard about it. But if I hadn't made that friend, I probably like wouldn't have known about it either.
Yeah, true. I don't know. For me, it was kind of, like the Bee Movie. I feel like that lesson of that movie was kind of like, it will be super bad if the bees are gone. I don't know. They weren't
Right,
directly saying
right.
in the movie that the bees are
Exactly.
going to be gone, but I feel like after that, I was kind of like, what's happening with the bees? And then so I looked into it. Like, wait, they're kind of like dying. And then so I feel like things like that, like movies like that, where they're more made more for like entertainment purposes, they can actually like help get a message across. Because at least for me, I saw the message in it. I don't know if that was their intention behind it, but like I saw that as kind of the message, and I was like, wow, that's kind of bad because like look how bad our world will be without bees.
Yeah.
Like, who knows how real that is really, but like it's definitely something that brought me to it.
Right. I think it definitely has something to do with that. Um, yeah. That's really interesting that you like found that because I would never have thought of that at all. Yeah, but for sure, I think there are definitely more movies that are have like hidden messages and like things about the environment and like different social stigmas that like they want to break down, I guess. Like I know like Lilo and Stitch, it's like about like child custody and like losing kids and stuff. So like that like kind of was like my first introduction to like I don't know, like adoption and like all that kind of thing. And then I don't know, like I for sure like media first presented like issues about like kids issues like bullying and stuff to me because like I went to really small school, so we didn't really I don't think bullying really existed there. So like I first found out about it through entertainment, and I guess from that I got like a deeper meaning about humanity, like people can be mean to each other, that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. I don't know. I was always a book person. I mean, I am now, but I'm less so. But like when I was younger, I was always a book person. So I learned like all my lessons from there. But I feel like the media has definitely played an important part in my life, and it's just brought like so much awareness to things I wouldn't have known about. And my parents too, like they're constantly like like honestly like I don't think I really knew about like all the concentration camps in China until like my mom was like, guys, you heard about this, right? And I was like, no, what are you talking about? And I was like, I didn't even know this was like an issue like right now in our modern world. And I thought that was so crazy at the time. And I just think it's so crazy how there's just so much that I don't know that's just happening around me right now that
Yeah.
are like big things that I should know about. There's probably like plenty of stuff that I don't know about like right now.
Yeah, for sure. Like when I first heard about it, I honestly felt guilty that I didn't know, and like even more guilty that like I what is it? Like I didn't feel too affected by it. Like when I first heard it, I was like, that's terrible. But like I didn't like feel like affected by it because it wasn't happening right in front of me, and like I felt so far off. So I think that's like another issue like that we have to like struggle with because like things that are happening in other countries are like away from like your demographic or something. Like it's hard to like muster up like enough empathy to care about those things, especially when they're not happening in front of you. And like it sounds so bad, but I think a lot of us do struggle with like empathy, especially when reading about things that are happening and like when things are less visual or like right in front of you. So like a lot of times when I'm reading about like terrible things that are happening to people, like it's hard for me to like imagine like me being in their circumstances and stuff and like to kind of empathize with that. So yeah, for sure we should talk about like things I don't know, like struggling with like caring about things enough to do something about it, you know?
Yeah, I think it helps a lot of the time for like these issues, like when like articles or like the media employs like logos, because that's like emotion, I think. I
Uh-huh.
think that's, and so like because I feel like once you appeal to people's emotions, then people like have more of a response to the information,
Mhm.
and they do more about it maybe.
Yeah.
Because like yeah, because I feel like when it's more just using like facts and it's like, well, this many people have died and blah blah blah, and like, wow, that's like really harsh, and that's like a lot of people, and that's really just horrible that that's happening. I feel like there's just like a disconnect from reality for a lot of us because it's just so far away, like you're saying, and it's just not really something that's really kind of a part of our world,
Mhm.
which is honestly so sad. Well, I mean, like, that's not what I meant. But like, what I'm saying is like, I feel like, I don't know. At least for me, I feel like a lot of the time I'm like, I won't make that much of a difference. Like, whatever I do, it's not going to make that much of a difference. And I feel like that's just not a good mindset to have.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know. I feel like some other people I know have that mindset, but I don't know if that's like just a me thing. But like, I don't know. I just feel like as a kid, I just have like so much of a like kind of like a lack of power, and so I'm like, if I voice my opinion, it won't really matter. Like honestly, like a few months ago, before I became really passionate about like the right to vote, I was like talking with my friends about this, and they were like, "Oh, are you gonna vote when you're 18 or whatever?" And I was like, "No, I don't really care. Like whatever. Like, is my vote gonna make that much of a difference?" And they looked at me like I was crazy, and they're like, "What do you mean your vote is so important?" I'm like, "I'm one person out of like millions and so many people just voting. Like how is it gonna make a difference?" And they're like, "You would make a difference." I don't know. So I thought that was, but like recently it's become more aware that like while you may not make a difference in yourself, like you could, and like I don't know, because some votes have been pretty close, and like you can convince other people and spread the influence. So I think it's like better to have the mindset that you could make a difference. So like just like try to make that difference.
Yeah, especially with like social media and like how mature a lot of kids are um, with like touchy like subjects like this. I think it's like you definitely have like your opinion definitely matters and has a lot of influence because like I don't know, someone who I respect, like if they say something, I'm definitely gonna take that into account and like think about it at the very least, and like might even like take on that opinion for myself. And then like someone who respects me might take on that opinion. It's like a whole chain reaction kind of thing. So yeah, so like I think it's really important for us, even as like minors, to get involved and talk about things like this.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely can relate a lot to that because I feel like you've definitely told me some things and I've been like, oh, that's true. And then I've taken that, not like a lot, but I feel like there's definitely been some things because like I know like sometimes I'll be like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I'll say something to my parents and they're like, wait, what? Where did you get that idea from? And I'm like, I don't know, like my friends or something. And they're like, that's an interesting perspective on the matter. And so I think that's interesting. But yeah,
For sure. Okay. So there's definitely a lot more examples of this whole like lack of media coverage in certain areas. This is like both in smaller countries and then like certain demographics that like are minorities within countries themselves. So this is like the first mini episode in a series that we're gonna talk about like imbalance in journalism and things like that as they come up or as they become relevant. So yeah, so stay tuned for more of those. Um, we'll see you next week with another episode. Bye.
bye.